Hi, my name's Alexis Rossi. I'm a librarian and the director of collections at the Internet Archive. The Internet Archive is a nonprofit library that was founded to bring all of human knowledge online and make it accessible to everyone for free. So let's talk about the Wayback Machine. The Wayback Machine is an archive of over 500 billion archived web pages that we've been saving since 1996. From the archive.org front page, you can search the Wayback Machine directly, right here, or from anywhere on the website, you can go into the Media Nav, in the Web dropdown, and search here. But for our purposes today, I'm going to click the Wayback Machine logo to go to the Wayback front page. You can also type archive.org/web into your browser to go straight here. The Internet Archive itself was founded in 1996, and our original mission was to archive the internet, hence the name. Now, today it seems pretty obvious that the internet is a big part of our daily lives, but in 1996 that was not so obvious. So we were kind of the only people archiving the internet back in the day, and the Wayback Machine is one of the only records we have of what those early days of the web were like. We were motivated to save web pages because they're essentially ephemeral. They can be changed, deleted at any time, and there's no artifacts left behind, unlike something like a newspaper or a book. In fact, today, the average lifespan of a web page is only about 100 days before it either changes or is deleted. The quickest way to search the Wayback Machine is to type in a URL. So let's go with EFF.org, the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And what you're looking at here is essentially a calendar of all of the times that we have captured the page EFF.org over the last 24 years. We call this the calendar page. And this graph right here, which you can scroll to see all the way back to 1996, is a record of how many times we've crawled this page over time. The height of the line indicates how many times we crawled the site. It doesn't denote change or importance, just frequency of crawling. 2021 is highlighted here, so that's the calendar that you see below you. Since we're in January, you only see a few days of information here. So let's go back to 2020, and now you see a full year of crawling of this particular page. There is a circle for every day that we crawled this page. In this case, we crawled it every day of last year, but you'll notice that the circles are different sizes. The different sizes of circles indicate how many times we crawled the site on a given day. So this circle is 8 snapshots, and if I look at a bigger circle, this is 59 snapshots. You'll also notice that the circles are different colors. This one is green, this one is blue, and we have a red one all the way over here. At the bottom of the page, you'll see a legend that explains these further. But basically, a blue circle indicates that we got 200 responses. In other words, the page, EFF.org in this case, loaded with no problems. A green circle, like this one, indicates that one of these captures was a redirect. And a red circle indicates that there was an error retrieving the page, a 500 error in this case. You notice there are a lot of times listed here, and these times are all in UTC. This is every time we've crawled the page during that day. As I go through these dates, you may notice that at the top of the calendar, there is some text that's changing right here. So again, as I go through, you'll notice it's not just showing me the date and the time, it's also showing me why the page was saved. In this case, the red capture here, the error capture, was saved through our Save Page Now collection. If I go up here and click it, you're taken to the collection on archive.org where this page is stored, and you may find some good explanation up here about why the page was saved, who is collecting it, and how it got into the archive in the first place. Let's go back. And let's look at that again. So that one is from Save Page Now. A human being said, save this page. This next one is from an Archive-It partner. We'll talk about Archive-It in a moment. A few more of those. Okay. And then this one is from Focused Crawls, NBC News. Let's look at this capture. This is why you come to the Wayback Machine. You want to see what these pages looked like back in the day, even if back in the day was less than a year ago. So this is the page as it was captured on May 6th, 2020. You can see the date up here. But what I'd like to point out is that you can also find out a page's provenance when you're on the page. Over here, you'll find the About This Capture pull down. And you'll see again that this is from the NBC News focused crawl. And this gives you a little bit of information about what focus crawls are for. Tells you that the organization that crawled it is us, the Internet Archive. And then down here you see a bunch of timestamps for other pages. So let's talk about what a web page is actually made up of. So the page EFF.org might contain this text, for example, but there are additional assets that make up this page. The logo is a separate image file. This is a separate image file. This is a separate image file. You get the idea. There are also probably JavaScript files that run things on this page. There might be a CSS file that tells us how to lay out the page. Every page that you go to on the internet pretty much is going to have many, many files or assets, or in this case, URLs that make up that page. So when we look at About This Capture and we look at the timestamps section, what this is telling you is all of the different URLs that we had to capture to replay this page to you accurately. So we captured the page EFF.org at the time that was listed in the calendar, the one we clicked on. But the other files were captured at different times. And here we are telling you, for example, this file was captured 1 hour and 19 minutes before this particular page. Down here, this is captured 33 minutes and 14 seconds after the page that we're on right now. This gives you a quick way to see whether the images and other assets that make up the page were captured at around the same time. In other words, how likely is it that the page that we're showing you is accurately represented? So this can be very helpful information if you're doing deep research. Most people probably don't need to care about the timestamp section or even the provenance necessarily, but we do want you to know it is there in case you need further information about where this capture came from. So this isn't a still image. This is a copy of the code and other assets that made up this website at the time. So there's one big proviso here. The Wayback Machine contains things that we could download. So that might be something like text or an image, even a video file. But there are certain dynamic elements of websites that are far more difficult or impossible for us to capture. Search is one of those things, probably the most likely one that you'll run into. So the search function on this website, EFF.org, is not going to work. And no, you can't go back and search Google like it's 2005. And you can click through. So now we're on a completely different URL. You see the different URL here. And you see the date. We did also capture this on May 6th, 2020. And you can continue exploring. You can go back to the home page. And I'll show you a few different options that you have up here in the header. Above the provenance section, you see your share buttons. You can share on Facebook or Twitter. This takes you to the help documentation. And this icon here lets you save this capture of this page to your web archive on archive.org. That is located in your account, and I will show that to you later. So let's go ahead and click that, and we get a little success message. So it will be waiting for us in our account later. There are different ways to navigate through the dates that you're looking at. Again, this is the date that you're currently on. You can use these to go backwards and forwards a month, backwards and forwards a day, or, well, you can't go forward yet, but backwards to 2019. You can also scan through dates here and click anywhere in here to navigate through time. If you have another URL you would like to search, you can go ahead and do that right here. You can use the logo to go home to the Wayback Machine homepage again, or you can click the captures link here to go back to the calendar page for EFF.org, which I'm going to do because we have several other things to look at here. So we're on the calendar page right now, which we've already talked about, but next to that, you'll see this collections page. This is a bit sparse, so I'm going to click into 2020 so we see the collections page for last year instead. This page shows you why the page was crawled. These are the collections that crawled the page and when they crawled it over time. You can click through to any of these to find out more about the collection and who runs it. And of course, you can click on different years to see how that has changed over time. The changes page for this URL allows you to visualize how much a page has changed over time. If a day is gray, it hasn't changed much since the last crawl. If a day is blue, there were significant changes. You'll see the legend for these colors down here. Gray is low rate of change, blue is high rate of change. The compare feature allows us to compare two different captures and see what has changed in a side-by-side display. Let's try this feature out very quickly. Let's just choose two captures from the same day, but they can be from different days. Our two capture dates, and times in this case, are displayed up here. And we go ahead and click compare. And it takes a moment for this to finish running. You'll see the changes highlighted. Here you can see the banner has changed. But if you scroll down the page, you'll also see different stories are now available. As you can imagine, this can be very helpful for showing small changes within pages. Now let's close this window. This is opened in a new tab. And go back to the changes interface. We have the data for all of the years down here. And it can take a little bit of time for these to process if there's a lot of information. Next, let's look at the summary. The summary applies to the entire domain. Calendar, collections, and changes are specific to the URL that you're looking at here, the single page that you looked up. However, summary and sitemap apply to the entire domain. So the information for summary and sitemap apply to every page that lives on EFF.org, not just the single home page. The summary page lets you explore what kind of content is hosted on EFF.org. Text, images, JavaScript, all of those sorts of things. And you can do that through time. You can limit this information by the type of files that are available. You can also limit this by year and see how things have changed. Play with that a little bit so you can see the pie chart changing here. You can also delve further into what types of things you'd like to see here. So for example, this is just images. And again, we can change this to include all time. Further down the page, you'll see information for the entire domain about new pages, different MIME types, that sort of thing. Lots to explore there. And finally, let's look at sitemap. The sitemap, again, is for the entire domain of EFF.org. And you can choose which year you would like to look at. The center of the ring is the root, in this case, of course, EFF.org. And as you move outward, you're moving outward through the tree of their website. A note right above my cursor, you can see as the URLs change. Scrolling through time lets you see how the complexity of a site has changed over time. So 2000 versus 2020. You can see the sites become much more complex. And of course, once you get to a page that you want, you can click through and we will take you to the replay page for that. I'll leave you to explore that more on your own. Let's click the logo and go back to the Wayback Machine front page. Now, as I said, the most efficient way to search is by URL, but if you don't know the URL, you can also search by keyword. Searching by keyword is different than it is when you search on Google or another search engine. You're not searching every keyword on every page. You're actually searching for entire sites, not pages, when you search by keyword on the Wayback Machine. And you're searching things like titles, the URL, meta tags, link text, things like that. This means that if you search for just a word instead of a URL, let's search for crochet, you're not searching for that word on every page from the last 24 years. You're only going to get entire websites that are about crochet. From here, you can choose whichever site looks the most likely to you. And from here, of course, this is all the same. You can click through to see other pages on the website. You can learn about the capture. Everything here is the same as what we were just looking at. So keyword search is a good way to find an old site when you've forgotten the URL. Let's go back to the front page again. Just click the logo. We've spent some time exploring how you can find things that are already in the Wayback Machine, but you can also add things to the Wayback Machine yourself. If you want to do large-scale, ongoing web archiving projects, I recommend that you check out Archiveorg. This is our subscription-based archiving service that allows you to conduct your own large crawls. But for most people, Save Page Now is all you really need. The Save Page Now feature lets you archive pages that are live on the web right now. You may want to archive pages because you are saving your own research to make sure it will still be available later. You might want to archive something that is happening right now that you think is newsworthy. Or you may just have redone your personal website and you want to make sure we have a copy of it for posterity. Whatever reason you have for saving a page, all you need to do is type your URL in right here. In this case, I'm going to save creativecommons.org and click Save Page. Just a note, you will see more options here if you are logged in to the archive.org website with your free account. Now, when you save a page using this tool, it saves the one URL plus any assets needed to render the page. So it includes the images, the CSS files, and things like that. It does not save an entire website. However, you can increase the number of pages we save by choosing to save the outlinks from this one page. We will find all of the links on this one page and crawl those links as well. If you uncheck this box, we will not save the page if it results in any sort of an error code. You can check here to save a screenshot of the page. That will be a still image. It's not clickable, but it is a good representation of what the website looked like at a particular time. You can save this to your web archive. These pages will show up in your account. We'll look at that in a moment. And you can ask to be emailed the results of this crawl. We will email it to the email address that is associated with your archive.org account. The email includes the URLs we crawled, any errors we ran into, and the screenshot if you chose that option. Now let's go ahead and save the page with our selections made. And this dialog here tells us what's happening. If it's a very media-rich page or you've chosen to save outlinks, and it's a fairly link-heavy page, it may take a while to complete this, but when it's done, you'll see green done messages for each resource saved. So our seed page is done, and by seed I mean the original URL that I gave to save. And then down here you'll see progress as we save all of the outlinks. This page is still in there it's done. This page has run into an error. This page is still saving. And this is the first time this page has been archived. So as I said, this can take a moment. You will get a full report sent to you via email if you chose that option. Up here, this is the link to the saved web page in the archive. That's the clickable version. And then down here, that's the screenshot, the still image. So because I chose to save this in my web archive, we also saved the EFF.org website in our My Web Archive earlier. I'm going to go to my account and choose the My Web Archive option from the drop-down. And down here we see the Creative Commons page that we just saved, as well as the May 6th version of the EFF.org page that we added to our My Web archive earlier. And of course these are clickable, so we can see the page that we just crawled. There are a few more things to talk about on the Wayback Machine homepage. If you're a developer, right here you'll find a link to the Wayback Machine Availability API. This allows you to programmatically check whether we have any archived versions of a URL. This API has allowed our partners, for example, to fix more than 10 million broken links in Wikipedia references, and to add support for broken pages to the Brave web browser, among other things. If you prefer to take the Wayback Machine with you, you'll find extensions and add-ons for your browsers, Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, as well as an app for your iPhone and an app for your Android phone. I hope you've got lots of information now to help you get started using the Wayback Machine. If you need further help, you can go to our help site at help.archive.org. And if you have further questions, you can always email us at info@archive.org.